Hey there, Moz.
Okay, you got me? Hear me?
I've got you, mate.
How are you?
I'm really well, mate. I'm really well. Hey, it's really nice to see you, mate. How's your week been? Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. There he is.
That's last year's birthday present.
You're a comic. You're a comic fan, hey? You're a big Marvel man.
I was a big Marvel Comics fan, strictly Marvel.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely besotted with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I liked Iron Man. I liked a number of them, but there was something about Spider-Man. And I think, and this is the thing about the films with Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire is perfect because Spider-Man was a geeky teenager learning about becoming a man and his powers, you know. And I related to that. But he was isolated and geeky, but underneath he had superpowers. And I always knew I had a superpower. Didn't know what it was.
That's amazing, man. And I'm not a big comic man myself, but I love the way that they've taken, the pantheon of gods basically and created modern, gods and myths out of these people, So and the myth there of Spider-Man is that, with great power comes great responsibility. That's how to manage all this testosterone us blokes have got, right?
Yeah, huh? It's hard being a man. You're not recording, are you?
Yeah, I'm recording, man. We're on. This is it. This is it. So
no, I've been outed. I love that quote. And I don't know.
You're a spider. I did not know.
I love that quote. Anyway, so are you recording just voice, or are you doing face as well? What are you doing?
I'm not clever enough to do something like that. I'm just clever. I'm recording voice and video. It's all.
Yeah, okay.
It's all happening, man. It's all happening. Right. This is it.
So I've got some extensive notes to help me so that I answer your questions well. So you'll excuse while I do prepare, but I don't want to read. I don't want to, get too readily. But I've just got them there as a backup. I'm just going to figure that out.
That's amazing. All I'm going to be doing is asking you about you.
I know, but I'm an over preparer. But it's funny because it's really weird because it doesn't gel with my personality is a bit odd because I impro is my thing. But when it comes to this kind of thing, I have to prepare. Same with Milk Crate. I had to prepare because I was narrating. And if you've got to hit certain things, with great words comes great responsibility.
I'm with you, mate. No, that's exactly it, right? Well, let's change mode here and go into. Yeah, let's do it. All right. So welcome everybody to the first Ability Consultants podcast. Our mission is freedom and social connection through easy access to positive behaviour support. And our goal with this podcast is to connect with inspiring people and see if there's something we can learn and apply to become better people and get better at what we do. And Maurie, welcome. You are our first guest, and it's a real honour to talk to you. You're a man who embodies what positive support is all about, and how to be a humane, I guess, advocate for people who are having a hard time. So welcome to this chat.
Wow, thank you. Well, that's a bit of an honour to be number one, and thank you for your very kind words. But the feeling's mutual. I know what you do, and I think I love what you do, and you and the team. It's great. We're all trying to do good stuff.
Well, we are, and look. Firstly, who are you, and who are the people you serve, and what do you do, Maurie?
I was going to answer that, but you did ask a question, and you said that something about have you seen my barbecue? And I was ready for that.
Oh, well,
have you seen my barbecue? And I have, and I was thinking, what are you doing going there? Mine's better than yours. So I'll see your barbecue and I'll raise it. I'm packing on my deck a Weber Q200. Your call.
Oh, dude, look, that's intimidating. I've got the Weber Baby Q, but it's how you use it. It's how you use it, isn't it?
Oh, here we go.
It's how you use it. You know, like seriously, it's not the size of the sausage. It's the flavour, isn't it?
I'm not going there. Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. I'll run with that.
So that was my first question. Dude, have you seen my barbecue? And it sounds like you don't need my barbecue. You've got a pretty damn good one yourself, Moss.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm here, mate. If I could invite people around, what I would be doing is I'd be inviting elders who live in residential aged care. So, you ask them what I do and who I serve, which is a beautiful way to put it. I love the way that you put that. So many of the people I live with would be living with varying levels of dementia, and I'm looking at targeting those who are self-isolating and those on the slippery slope towards depression, I guess. And I'd also ask to work with those that they refer to as challenging or BPSD, behavioural and psychological symptoms of dementia. And both of these terms I do not use. I don't use them. So the terms that I kind of go and we go, I'm in a collective called the Outside In Collective. So it's a bunch of us that do this work. And we talk about these as unmet needs. They're attempts to communicate. They're more behaviours of distress or they're reactive behaviours. Those terms are much more palatable to me. So I see about 60 each week in one-on-one sessions here in the Hunter around Newcastle. And that's who I work with. And I would use my one-on-one sessions. I do some group stuff. I tend to work one-on-one, but inevitably you get drawn in as you've been at a service for 3 or 4 months into some group sessions. But the people I'm working with one-on-one, I'm using anything from music is very big. I use props and I use A4 pictures of tractors or grevilleers or nurses from the 20s. I would use nonsense. Am I allowed to say smart arsery? Yeah. Smart arsery banter is very big on my list of props. And I'm trying to use that to provoke responses. I might use nonsense, comic play, imaginary play, and props and silly props. So the idea is just to provoke a response. So you're throwing a grenade into the center of the ring, and whatever the elder comes back at with that response is where you go. It's improvised. So you can plan, and I do plan what I might try, what the grenades I'm packing are, but I'm looking at provoking a response. Otherwise, it's entertainment. And what none of us do in the creative engagement space, we don't entertain. We should be entertaining, but the idea is that that's not what that's the disguise, that's the mask. And I dress with a bowler hat, a frilly, like a tuxedo frill down the shirt, stripy pants, and I look like a really bad old entertainer. And people tend to say things like, "Oh no, here he comes," and it's all that kind of thing.
That's your whole shtick. That's your offer. You come in as the bumbling entertainer to the old person's home.
Yeah. And so you can't say, "Oh, would you like to see Maurie for some therapy today?" They're going to say no. And also I need to clarify, Dave, if I can take this moment to say that I'm not a therapist, because I'm working therapeutically, but I'm not a therapist. And I think therapists are amazing, particularly music therapists. But I'm doing similar work in a similar way, but I'm using acting skills and performance skills and music skills. And I use the term skill lightly because one of the great things that someone said to a mate of mine called Andy was, "Hey, Andy, is that song hard to sing?" I use this joke all the time. "Andy, is that song hard to sing?" "No, why?" "Because it's really hard to listen to."
It's not hard to sing. I love it. So look, I was first exposed to your professional work through Milk Crate Theatre. And
yeah,
I also remember seeing you on a few episodes of Home and Away and a few ads here and there. I remember like you used to do a fair few, like traditional acting jobs. You've got an acting life. You've been an artist all your life. But it seems to me like there's always been a I don't know. There's something's drawn you to acting, and it's still, you're doing your art now through. Tell me
Social inclusion, and
that's right. When was the moment you decided that doing your acting could become like a therapy for people?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a conscious decision. I went to a place called Theatre Nepean, University of Western Sydney, and did the acting degree there. And they've had a very much a focus on community theatre. And I got into Western Australia, and I tried to go to VCA, was where I really wanted to go. And as I got closer to acting, I realised that there was other things I wanted to do that weren't about the opera house. And I was never really attracted to fame. And I didn't want to be doing soapies because you kind of become personal property, so I always liked it though. I wanted to do everything, but I went to Theatre Nepean. I chose to go there. I didn't get into VCA, and I got shortlisted at WA, but I chose Nepean because there was something about it. And there was a lecturer called Gordon Beattie who really influenced my thinking. I just kind of realised that there was a bigger world out there around social justice and vulnerable communities, and people that, like me, I came from a working class background. So art was for weirdos and creeps and nut jobs, theatre was like whackers. And so I really saw the power of acting and theatre, but tried to work out how do you make it appeal to people that aren't into the art forms or that as a craft. Like, they're drawn to TV, they're drawn to ads, And I have to say, I did a lot of ads, and ads were really helpful because they funded me continuing in low paid work, because all of us people that go out there, it's low paid work and it's demoralizing, and there is no job. You keep going for these jobs and, everyone's going for them. But I did pretty well with ads. It suited my over the top style, let's say. And in the interim, I did Milk Crate. And as I came out of Theatre Nepean, I worked on a boat, a charter boat, tourist company, and we had they wanted to have this reenactment like Old Sydney Town, and we devised this cruise on a tall ship where we treated the kids like convicts for 2 hours, and the teachers loved it, and they employed us full time. And so I started to do all these kind of things, and I was teaching drama with adult beginners, with non-actors, which I love. I love working with non-actors. People just want to. They did it last year, Lebanese cooking or pottery, and this year it's acting, or professionals that wanted to improve their confidence. So I started doing this, and then I found Milk Crate through Darlow Drama, and I loved Milk Crate, working with the homeless community. I did spend 2 years with Parramatta Riverside in the disability theatre program Beyond ABBA, and that's I've got 2 years, and that's not a lot of experience. 2 years, you're just finding your feet. You're really just starting to understand. But from there, I was out of work, and that was the only job I had. And people kept saying, "Oh, Moz, you'll get work. You're great." People pat you on the back and say nice stuff when you're out of work. But I started saying, "Well, what have you got for me? Can you help me get a job?" And people were like, backing away, going, "Whoa, that's not my problem." But 2 people did. 2 people stuck their neck out and said, "You need to audition for this Arts Health thing." So that's how I got into working with elders living with dementia. And they folded in 2017, very sadly, and about 100 artists that were working there were taken out away from elders that they were working with, and there was about 15 of us that survived the transition to become independent contractors. But I don't know, I just kind of found myself doing it. I just always I think if you are positive, it sounds cliche. Sorry to all the cliche haters out there, but if you sound positive and you have really good experience, and the person you work with has a really good experience, it doesn't happen as much as we think. If you inspire each other and you have this amazing kind of transaction, people remember that. And I think that I've been lucky to find my feet in that way. And so I just found myself working in realm, and it is the most, for me, and I don't take away anything that anyone else does, but for me, our elders are living in aged care, and they used to sit in the community, the head of the tribe, the head of the family. And now even if they don't have a dementia, and dementia is a broad term for a lot of different, umbrella term for a lot of diseases to do with the brain, they are no longer sitting at the table. They're in aged care. And I think that's a shame. I mean, it's inevitable because time is so fast and the world is sped up, but our loss has been our mentors and the keepers of wisdom. I feel we've lost them.
This is like you've discovered something very, very important, and you've got some pretty deeply meaningful goals off the back of that, by the sound of it. What would you like to see? What's the change you'd like to see in the world?
In the world?
Yeah, in your world to start with, and then moving out. How do you know you're on track?
No, I reckon that what I'd like to see change in the world is for the world to reverse its attitude on ageism. I think ageism is a major problem. I don't want to bag any products out, but think about some of the toys and some of the magazines that girls and boys look at. Six pack, I don't know. I mean, there's been a few people with six packs. I've never had one. I've had a keg. My daughter, we try to keep, I think we were at Steiner, we got Steiner kids, right? So we try to avoid dolls of a certain type that sort of beautify women, and we try to avoid guns. And I think that we try to do these things, but what we need to do is we need to really embrace aging for what it is. Aging is an honor, and it's a seat of wisdom, and you hold knowledge, and you're an elder when you're in your 50s. Like that's when it begins. If we were living in the Stone Age, you and I would be dead by now. The lead male would have killed us about 25. Grocon would have killed us, and we'd be long gone. You didn't live till you were 60, 70, 80, in Stone Age times. But I see people often say, why do you use the term elder? Well, I'm an elder. You're an elder. We're elders now. We're getting older, and when we have hopefully a little bit more wisdom. So I'd like to see us find that again with our elders, embrace ageism, and get rid of the fear of wrinkles and grey hair, and understand that it's a beautiful thing and it's a change, and embrace elderhood. So there's that. But the other thing that I think we need to find, I think this is something that COVID has brought us, time. I'm borrowing words from a great man called Bill Thomas, who I admire greatly, but the world spins faster and faster. He talks about this. And we have less care, less compassion, less desire to communicate. We don't have time. And, the people that sit in these residential aged care services, our elders, they had come from a world that had much more time. And I'm sure the world is speeding up for them, their parents, but we've lost this time. And you see it in residential aged care. And I bet you see it in your sector too, where people don't have the time to communicate and to connect as meaningfully as they probably need to, because they're under the pump to, see so many residents, see so many clients. And so the time that we lost cuts out a lot of the reasons why people get into aged care as a worker. And I just see people that are really kind of people that I work alongside that are working in residential aged care, delivering cares, and they don't have any time, and that hurts them because they got into this to be with elders. So the elders then sit there and watch this frantic pace around them, and I see them like kind of baffled and bamboozled by it, and you kind of go, wow. The world must be really fast to them. And you look at TV, and if you look at TV now, if we placed my dad at age 9 in front of a TV that my daughter watches now, he wouldn't be able to take it all in because it's so rapid. So I think the world is sped up to such a rate that if we could just slow it down a little bit, it would be helpful for all of us. That's my rant. Sorry about that.
Yeah, there's the speed of it. There's the way, society constructs images around people that are old. And there's a few ways that we're sort of lacking the ability to connect with these humans that really would have been so highly valued for so much, the majority of our time on the planet, as a species. So
they care. Sorry, Dave. Dave. That's the point. Yeah, that's really the essence of it, because they, like, if you look at our First Nations people, like, and I know that there's issues. I know that there are issues with youth and elders, but generally elders have a different form of respect than we latecomers, late arrivals have. And they have a different system of valuing the elders, and it's really it's a loss. It's a real loss. Like I was an apprentice. I did a trade when I was a kid, you know, like come out of school. I was mentored through the upholstery trade, a car trade.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a real mentorship. And I remember seeing my grandfather trying to fix the radio, and I'd forgotten to put the spring right on the radio in my EH Holden. And I was like, no, I've ruined it. Oh, I'm going to have to. And he said, hang on a sec. Now he knew what to do, but he didn't tell me. He modeled, he showed me how to solve it. He got the spring and he just opened it up and he twisted it patiently around the wire. It took him about 5 minutes and he just did it. He was going, just kept doing it. And I watched and I went, oh my God, that is so simple.
Got it. It's those moments that you get from watching somebody who's unconsciously become competent. They can't put that in an instruction manual. You can't Google that stuff. You know, you've got to be around people that embody the wisdom, right?
That's the thing. And people say to me, don't you find it exhausting what you do? But actually being around those people and those mentors and learning, and I do learn stuff. Yeah. I challenge stuff as well. Like, don't get me wrong, because you've got to walk a fine line between cheeky. You got to walk this fine line between smart arsery, empathy, and respect. And it's a really hard line to walk.
Yep.
You can't do the smart arsery banter thing without forming a relationship first.
No.
But, you know, picking up on your point, we learn, we've lost that. Yeah. I mean, it's a sad thing. And seeing it in person is, you can't Google it. You can't DuckDuckGo it. You can't Ecostacia it. You can't Bing it.
No, there's no shortcut to wisdom. And we don't value it enough.
You cut out a little bit there. Technology. Yeah, you just cut out for a second. Do you mind if I have a little bit of chocolate?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, not at all.
Want some?
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
Right.
It tastes great. Thanks. Oh, yum. Yeah. So you go into these and how many people a week are you doing these one-on-one interactions with?
Oh yeah, I did mention that. So I see around about, but prior to COVID, I was seeing about 60 different elders regularly each week, like you form a relationship. It's a little bit less at the moment as we build back up, because I'm now back inside. I think you knew that I was working at the windows doing the outside thing, which was on the project and that. But about 60 is the aim.
Yep.
And included in that would be the regulars, but I also do what we call PRN sessions. So PRN is kind of means prescribed as needed. So I go in and someone's had a fall, or there's a new resident, or someone's, you know, behaviours have changed, or there's a mood shift. So they'll say, can you see Betty today, because we're a bit concerned. She seems depressed or a bit worried. So I'll see them and then I'll report back to the clinical manager what I've found and what I think, and I might see them. So, but it's around about 60 in one-on-one sessions.
Amazing, man. I know, like, technically speaking, it's not therapy, but it sounds pretty therapeutic.
Well, therapeutic is, I mean, you know, it's funny. I'm about to do this post, Dave, on this subject. The thing is that it's what I do is just when I'm working with someone like dementia that struggles to interact in a way that we understand and get playful, all I'm doing is trying to normalize the interaction. It's just making it normal. Instead of someone talking to you, and no one does this disrespectfully, but people talk to you differently when you have dementia. They talk differently. They talk clearly. They speak in commands. They don't mean to, but they say, come with me, have your medication, Maurie. And it's all in commands. And they do it lovingly, but nonetheless, it's a command. And you feel like you're being cared. You're kind of having care thrown at you. And you need to the Eden Alternative talks about the 7 domains of well-being, and this really resonates with me. So Dr. Bill Thomas, I mentioned before, a geriatrician, heads that think tank. And the thing is that we need to, and Jane Verity, sorry, I should mention, this is Jane Verity's idea, the spark of life, a very inspirational woman, is that we all need to be love and give love. So we need to be able to be loved and needed, but we need to also give that. And it's got to be two-way. And when it's two-way, we have a normal interaction. It's normal. It's how it works. But when it's one way, you take away purpose and meaning. So there's that. But there's also a person living with dementia. I mean, if we look at, there's the biomedical model of why that's occurring in the brain and what's happened with the neurons. And, you know, if it's Alzheimer's, then it's memory related. You don't no longer form short-term memories. You might have frontotemporal dementia and your behaviour changes. Not all dementias are the same. But what happens is the way you perceive the world is different. You no longer perceive the world in the same way that you once did. So you're trying to navigate this kind of, I guess it's like it must be like some sort of existential crisis. So what I'm trying to do is find a equal ground where we can interact on equal terms, where I'm giving and I'm copping it back and receiving, and it's a proper normal transaction. And so it's normalized. And then that hopefully stops some of the cortisol, the hormone, the stress hormone cortisol pumping around your body. And a bit of endorphins, you know, a bit of nice, these chemicals that are in our body, these love hormones and these beautiful, they're in there and they're free. You don't have to go and buy them at a street corner. They're inside you. And so if we can pump these around, there's definitely benefits from that, but also just for the feeding the soul. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make that moment sit, and I'm also trying to model it. And not that I'm trying to tell people how to do things, but if they see there's a different way to perceive this person, it may bring something to the way they see them. And I know this from a beautiful friend of mine, Laurel, that I'm going to post with next week. One of the care staff there comes in and he brings out her bowler hat. I gave her a bowler hat for her birthday recently. Her family invited me to her 90th birthday. He goes and gets the bowler hat for our session and says to her, "You want your bowler hat?" "Yeah." And she'd nod her head and they put it on. You know, and she normally sits unable to communicate. Her word finding is very, very minimal. She can use some words, but they're never appropriate to the subject or topic. She can't use phrases, and yet after 4 or 5 songs and they have to be the specific songs that the old time songs she likes, it sort of activates her, and she starts to use some phrases and she starts to use some words that are appropriate, and it's only momentary. It's not something that repairs. It's not a treatment, but it's just something that should be a normal part of life.
Got it.
This is what should be in your day. So I like to fall down. I just go, "Oh, I've fallen down." I look on and I show her my hair and say, "Look how old I am. I'm grey. I've got wrinkles." And one day she bent forward and she said, "You poor old thing." That's a phrase. That's a phrase. You know, it's a phrase. Yeah. It's completely appropriate to topic. It's a retort.
She's reacting to your acting, and you're reacting to her acting in return. It's a play. It's a true play.
Yeah, and it is play, and people call it play. They used to call it play therapy, but again, you know, the word therapy is, I mean, people go, not that I haven't studied and trained. I studied dementia anyway through UTAS, but I'm not a therapist.
Have you finished your study, or are you still going?
No, I had to defer because the window therapy concept took off. Yep. And we formed this collective called the Outside In Collective, and I shared the idea with all the guys saying, "Hey, this is our idea." And some of them, like Ben Hur started in Hornsby, Rob Feldman got work again, Rob Laurie started, Margie Roller started doing visual art on the window, Jane Barber in Brisbane kicked off. There was all these people that started working again. And people, you know, I sort of shared it. Like people said, "You should patent this." And it's like, are you kidding? This is for the elders, and this is an emergency, because what concerned me when we had the restricted visitor precautions, when we locked our doors to residential aged care, we did it to protect our elders from catching COVID. I get that. That was the plan. But what was the plan to manage their psychosocial health? That was the question. What were we doing about the isolation that this was causing, the withdrawal of family, volunteers, musicians, entertainers, good and bad, creative engagement specialists like me, good and bad, music therapists, drama therapists, you know, art therapy, gone. And it was like at some places for 6 months. So, and it wasn't done. It wasn't done because, well, it was done to protect them. But the question was, what are we doing about their well-being and their mental health? So when the window therapy thing took off, I really invested a lot of energy getting on social media, which I've never done in my life, and LinkedIn, thank you. And there's some great people that helped me out, and we got the message out there, and I shared it, and I just said, I don't want to patent it because it'll take forever. And by the time it's patented, it's all over. And it was just a holding pattern. And I was sharing it with the world to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Do it. So we put a document together and we sent it to some people, and someone in America tried it. Someone in Scotland tried it. It was just it was for our elders that I did it. So that took up a lot of time. So I've now got to get back into the dementia studies. So today, Dave, after I get off the phone, I'll be ringing up UTAS and saying, can I come back soon?
Oh, mate. So you've really dived in deep to elders, the world of elders, the world of care, and how to humanize it more.
I hope so.
Yeah. And there aren't many people that bring your history of your wisdom, your skills to that space, mate. It's just so wonderful to see. And I'm hearing more about it now. I wasn't aware that you were able, through your collective, to get a whole lot of people back into work, which is great for actors and artists.
Yeah,
two-way therapy. But even in the middle of COVID, you were able to keep people's lives from shutting down totally.
Absolutely. I just thought this can't happen, and as I said, if people want to look up window therapy, the project, it's on the project's site. They'll see a 9-minute clip of it. And I was blessed by the manager, Susie Madden, out at Largs, who the Widden have always been championing my work. And they,
well, wouldn't they?
Nelson there too. Like, she really was concerned about, what would happen if I wasn't going to see the elders that were used to me. Like, I'd been there for 3 years. And they just said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I got this idea. And Susie said, what is it? We got different recollections on the story. I remember her saying, how does it work? And me saying, I don't know yet. And she said, great, give it a go. And she called it window therapy. It was her naming it. Jokingly, like retail therapy, or that was the joke. Wasn't meant to be called a therapy.
Oh, but no, it's nothing therapeutic about it. I get
it. It took off. And as you saw in the project clip, as people really connected with me. And then the whole thing was, you don't let me in, don't let him in. And I'd be like, hey, can I come in? I need to go to the toilet. Or, I'd be threatening to sing a song, or I wouldn't play one. And it was a really good way. It was a great holding pattern to keep the continuation. And I learned a lot. I was doing a lot of group work, which I hadn't done before. I still did one-on-ones if the centre had access. But if you have the lifestyle team member inside saying, don't let him in, and it's fun, they get really into it. And one service out at Merton Living out at Denman, they're so cheeky out there. They started shooting me. They gave all the elders Nerf guns, with the foam bullets. They were shooting me. I was like doing the duck thing.
That's
so
perfect.
It brought out the best in people. And there was one woman out there, my mate, I won't say her name. They gave her a gun and she went like this. She was like the Terminator, and she just held it, closed one eye, pulled the trigger, and she was always within a foot. I'm showing my age now. 30 centimeters of my head. About 6 shots. It's incredible.
Wow.
Where's that skill?
Yeah, that's assassin skill. She's getting that from her, pre-morbid skill set for sure.
I'm inside now and I'm a bit nervous about seeing. But Robin, one of my it's dangerous. One of my great managers, Robin Blackwell at Summit Care, she said, Moz, you didn't pivot, you pirouetted into window therapy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I really like that comment.
So do you see window therapy living on, and do you see this collective of yours growing, and more people from artistic spaces coming into this much needed area?
That's, it's so hard because I'm advocating as I work for certain things in aged care and connection, and trying to get those creatives back in front of the elders that have been and were taken away. And it's hard because it's so time consuming, and trying to deliver my own work and attend uni. We're having our first PD day, our first development day, next month. So we're getting together. There's about 12 of us that are going to make it, and we're going to have our development day. So that's very exciting. And I've been able to encourage 2 new members who hadn't been with us at Arts Health, and we've got a couple others in the wings. I would love to help and assist people to get into this, and it's a form of mentorship. And I guess the next question from that, I don't know. I don't know if I can actually have the energy and time to recruit people, but through the group, we're getting people along, and I'm hoping that will grow. It's very hard to find the person, because it's very hard to find a person that can do this kind of work. It's you have to be able to sit in with the awkward. You have to be okay with death, because people die. They don't live forever. And you see that more and more as people come into aged care and older and more further down the track of their dementia. But I think the qualities I look for is, I think if you've got, empathy is number one, obviously, but very, very closely behind it is curiosity. And when you are curious, when you have curiosity, there's something authentic about it, because you want to know what makes people bloody tick. What is it? And so that curiosity is authentic, and particularly with people around people with dementia, they aren't able to any longer read interactions. They don't have the insight. They can't interpret things. So what they're operating on, what they've got left, is reading the emotions in the room. And so when they're reading you, I believe that they can tell if you come into the room and you've got an agenda, if you come in and you've got an idea, or so, if you come in with anything at all, they smell it.
Got it.
And so you've really got to be open. So you have this empathy, and you've got to have that curiosity, and it's in an authentic, it's coming from an authentic space, then it's really powerful. I mean, of course, there's other qualities, but those ones I think are the main. And you have to be a bit of a nut. You have to be a bit of a dag, because you're doing stuff that's, sometimes pretty daggy and silly, and they're not taking it personally.
That's it. You're happy to be the I guess the butt of everybody else's laughter.
I'm often the butt. It's sort of like Jean-Paul Bell. He was one of the guys that sort of created this work, and he's from the Clown Doctors. He brought the Clown Doctors to Australia along with Peter Spitzer, as far as I understand it. I wasn't part of that. Jean-Paul Bell started AHI with Maggie Hirsch, but what he used to say was that it's kind of like the court jester. You're like a court jester, where you're being provocative. You're saying stuff that normally no one would dare say. You're provoking responses, and then when the royalties, your elders, decide, then you'll become the butt of the jokes, and then out you go, chop his head off.
See you later.
So that comment that I meant, that comment I mentioned, about, is that song hard to sing? No, because it's really hard to listen to. That's what that's all about. The royals taking over and kicking you out. It's time to go.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I think the spirit of what you're doing is entirely therapeutic. It's entirely consistent, certainly with humanistic psychology. The authenticity, the unconditional positive regard, the curiosity, and the belief that everybody's got something new to offer that you aren't aware of yet. That humility and not pretending to be someone you're not bringing an energy into the room that's not real. And people on the edge of the abyss can't stand dishonesty. Don't do it.
Is this, and I guess there must be parallels in your sector, Dave. There must be, because I understand. I tried to think, well, what do I recall? But and I don't. It's not my area. But I guess our intersection would be around unmet needs as communication, would it not? And that abyss that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think our intersection is around is around this idea you said earlier that people in care in general are not getting a two-way exchange of love, right?
Oh, yeah, wow.
And that changes reality. That changes the experience of the world for people. And there's there's the world of the paid professionals in my life, and then there's the unpaid world, the world of people that I'm actually like connected to through a non-carer angle. And many of the people that we work with in disability and also in aged care don't have a great lot of unpaid people in their life anymore. So that changes everything, you know. And then you mentioned things like the speed of the way workers operate versus the speed of the way that people that are being cared for operate. And then there's this issue that I'm a passive recipient of care rather than an active, productive member of the world anymore, you know. And there's a lack of meaning that goes with that. So that's common to anyone who's being cared for, whether it be in the medical system, the aged care system, or the disability system, you know. So the insights from person-centered therapy, you know, the Carl Rogers humanistic approach to therapy, which is all about firstly acknowledging that people are essentially good, and then extending actively that affirmative way of looking at things, and that's all based on a phenomenology or a philosophy that it's not about objectively assessing you and your deficits and your neurons. It's actually, it's way more real to connect on the level of pain and joy and tragedy and all these more real things that are more universal than atoms in a way. As humans, you know, what do I know about an atom? But I know what pain is, you know. So you know, so
it's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we're on such the same path. Yeah. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, tragedy, mate. Tragedy comes packed in, you know, and turn that into comedy, and that's the therapy. People die for that, you know. People would and you're an actor, mate. Like you people come and watch you play, and they cry, they laugh, they feel your pain when you bump your head. There's nothing more fundamental than play. You know, it's
so true. Play. There's a guy called Stuart Brown in America that wrote a book called Play, and he looked at what happens when a young child doesn't have play in their life and how that affects them and their empathy. Because we learn through play, the rough and tumble, you know. Dave comes up and hits Maurie. Maurie either hits him back or he cries, you know. And if it's as in the Steiner principle, where everyone runs up to Maurie and goes, "Are you okay, Maurie?" They don't say anything to you. You're looking at Maurie, getting all the attention. You're not getting it. Those things impact us greatly. And play in the animal kingdom, you see it. Play is very important for us to learn and to learn boundaries, as you know. And I love the whole idea of play, which is and that's what acting is, you know. And it's funny, people say, well, what's acting got to do with all this? You know, in health, you're doing, you know, have you got any qualifications? Yeah, I've got an acting degree. It's like, what? You know, the acting this is a world exclusive, Dave. I'm going to tell you, no one's asked me how actors are relevant to this work. So get ready, get the pens out.
Strapped in.
Acting is it's like psychology 101, but maybe not 101, maybe psychology 10. It's not, but it's, you know, what you're doing is you're recreating human behavior on stage. And so to do that, you need to understand and learn what drives a person. What are the drivers? What's motivating them? And then as you look at them, his family didn't love him, or, you know, he was bullied at school, or he was bullied by his bigger brother. And you start to see the pain and where these things, he's angry, he's nasty because he's been hurt or whatever. And so you start to learn this. And then what you're doing is you're trying to work out how that manifests so that you can express it in the film or on stage. And you're choosing gestures, you're choosing the cadence. You've got, you know, facial expressions, but gesture, trying to express the inner turmoil through gesture. So you're learning what that is. So you watch people all the time. So when you get into this work, you're reading signals. It's signal awareness, you know, and it's maxed up. You know, you're turning it right up to 11, as they say, and so you started understanding what drives a person. That's what you're looking for, because when you act, you go and you research the character and you try to find out what they did as a kid, what did they like. You read the other people's lines to see what that was said about them, and you know, I don't know how much time we got. It might be another session, but you know, like I once had 3 things I was told. I went to see a mate of mine. So that's where acting comes in. It's a great craft, acting. It teaches you, and a lot of corporate people and the people that are in the world and do a lot of big stuff that have an acting background, they really know this. It's great training, right? But there was a guy called Rechtub, and to cut a long story short, he was highly traumatized by an incident before he came into the aged care service. And I met him, and it was my first day. And I said, "Oh, tell me about this Rechtub." And they said, "Oh, yeah, he's really challenging. He'll hit you. He's aggressive." Okay. And this is by someone that was quite loving and nice, right? And I said, "Well, but what about him? Like, what's he like? Like, who is he?" "Oh, he's really, don't get too close to him." I was like, "Okay, can I look at his file?" So we look at his file. 3 things, Dave. 3 things are in there. He was from Junee. He was a butcher, and it said, in inverted commas, he got on the wallaby track or something. That's exactly what it said. So I went, he got on the wallaby track or something. So he must have been an itinerant worker, you know, going out there. Thought, what songs do I know? Because I hadn't played for long, but I knew Road to Gundagai. That's a good itinerant walking song, marching song. And I knew Click Go the Shears. So I thought, okay, well, I've got them. Junee is a beautiful old town. 3 years prior, I bought a tea towel from Junee. I didn't have it with me, but I knew Junee, right? So I knew about the street. I knew about the courthouse. So then I know something about butchers, and butchers have a backwards speak where they turn the words backwards so they can talk about the meat in front of the customer. This is an old, I don't know if it happens elsewhere, but in Australia, it's called Rechtub clat. That's butcher talk backwards. Yeah. So look out when you go to a butcher. If you say, hey, Rechtub, you'll usually get a smile from the older guys. And the young ones, they kind of don't use it. But the butchers turn the words backwards. And then in the 70s, they started flirting with ladies. You know, I remember as a kid looking at butchers going, well, they're really flirtatious. They'd say Doog gels, which is good legs, right? Wow. So, you know, this is these stuff they used to use to talk about meat in front of the customers. On Doog means no good, so don't sell them that leg of lamb. So I wrote down, and I don't have this paper. I'm so upset that I don't have this. This was the prime learning experience when I knew this work was for me. And I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff backwards, referring at the end of the sentence to Rechtub. Now, his name was not Rechtub. And I went in and I read, and I said to my partner, because I was on the floor with someone, I said, I need to leave a lot of silence because there's a lot of data that I'm going to throw at him, and I need him can we give him time to process it? I went in and there was this fella sitting in a wheelchair. He was really quite agile, upper body strength. He was a real swinger, and you could see that he was agile up top, but he's in a wheelchair, and he was sitting forward, and he had the most awful look on his face. And it wasn't the care. It was that he was sitting in a space where no one was going to reach him. And it was turgid. It looked awful. And I'd imagine how much cortisol was pumping around his body. And I read the bit of paper out, and it was something along the lines of, hey, backwards, hey, Rechtub, how are you, mate? Of course, it was in backwards. I can't do it now. And anyway, I said a few things, and I let it sit. And all of a sudden, I could see the wheels going. They were turning. And I said, hey, Rechtub, how are you? And he slowly looked up at me, and he said, all right, how's you? Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. And the person I was with gripped my arm. She was like, oh, my God, you spoke. And not in a yelling manner. So I said to him, they tell me you're from Junee. Oh, have you been there? Yeah, I've got a tea towel from there. Let's have a look at it. Oh, I don't have it. I'll bring it next week. Anyway, I got closer and closer to him, just staying about an arm's length of back, kneeling down, because I often kneel at the eye level. I knelt down. I had the ukulele right in front of me. I kept talking to him. I was asking him questions, and he was answering slowly, and then he started looking at the ukulele. So that was the invitation. I said, I've got a song for you, Rechtub. What would you like to hear? And he didn't answer it. And I said, Road to Gundagai or Click Goes the Shears? And he said, Road to Gundagai, thanks. So I started playing this song. Hang on. So, imagine this. There's a track winding back to it. So he starts tapping his hands. And he's moving and he's rocking. Anyway, I finish up and I said, I'll see you later, Rechtub. See you next time. Yeah, all right, okay. And it was like the manager says, I go around to see the manager after, because what happened? And I said, don't bother calling him Mr. So-and-so. Call him Rechtub. Here's why, and explained it. If the staff feel like singing Road to Gundagai, he seems to relate to that. And so that went on. I had a relationship with Rechtub. My butcher gave me, the charts of the cuts of meat. I got him a Cape Grim hat from a butcher. And I got, photos with him that they took, with all this stuff. And we would get the hat out and stick it on him if he wanted to. I'd sing Road to Gundagai and it would activate him. And I'd say 8 times out of 10, Dave, 8 times out of 10, he would respond. Yeah. And we interacted and he talked. And what happened was it demystified him to the others that worked there. Yes. That's what it achieved. And apart from the actual goodness for him and me learning the craft of what I was doing and taking on, apart from that, more importantly than anything, it demystified him to the staff that were caring for him, who were scared, who were lost. They didn't know what to do. And it wasn't for lack of what they were doing. But again, it comes down to time, and it comes down to this is the thing, I think, what questions do I need to ask, and what's going to float their boat? What keeps him awake at night, and what puts him to sleep? That's what I want to know.
Wow. So you basically do that's like reading a script before an audition, right?
Yeah.
Every time you meet somebody for creative engagement, you try and prepare. You're someone who likes to prepare for the moment.
And you don't get those. Oh, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, you don't know. Please.
No, I was just going to say you don't get those parts all the time. That was like a leading role, that one.
Oh, mate.
But you must have the same thing, right? So, you must have the same thing. Like you've got, do you use the term? What term do you use? Use client or?
Look, wherever we can, it's just person.
Okay,
or even better, Maurie. Or Moz, even better, Moz.
So everyone's Moz. So you're with the Moz, and so you see you're with a person. Like, so what information do you get on them? I mean, I guess you get the biomedical kind of breakdown, and you get the risks, and you would get a bit of info on their history. But what do you get about them? Like, how's that set up in your world?
Yeah, well, we've got the same goal as you. We're there to make people's lives less bad, improve lives. And when lives are really bad, it doesn't take a whole lot to make them a little bit better, So
yeah.
So but look, technically speaking, we look, who wants to speak technically? But essentially we do the same stuff, and a lot of the therapy we do is on the support network around a person.
Yeah.
Making someone's life better is not like if you've got a sick goldfish, right? Do you run pathology on the goldfish, or do you change the water?
Oh, is this a test? Change the water? Do I pass? Oh, I got it. Thank God.
You got it, mate. You got it. And we're all like goldfish, Yeah. So that's it. So that's
swimming in a big goldfish bowl.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Year after year,
Oh, and isn't that the song? And I tell you something. Sorry, while you do that, I'm going to divert again. I'm known for diverting.
Go for it.
That as we go into aged care and we learn the uke and people come in, the songs are changing. I'm getting asked for the Stones now, and someone did ask for Pink Floyd, and I went, "Oh my God, how do you do Pink Floyd on a ukulele?" and you know what's going to happen when because I'm in aged care. I'm doing it so that it's better when I get there, right? That's the real motivation here. And they're going to say, and we always joke, like, what's going to happen when you know, Maurie goes in, when Dave goes into aged care? I say, this is Maurie. He likes Nirvana. Oh, come as you are, as a friend. You know, it's going to be, mate, what are they going to do with the techno kids?
Dude, everything sounds better on a ukulele. There's nothing, you could play Metallica on a ukulele and it would rock. It'd be fantastic.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a limit. I got a lot of practicing.
Oh, mate. Well, look, thanks for everything you do, mate. And I just want to hear more. Look, what I'd love you to do, mate, is email me a list of all the links I should attach to this, mate, for people that want to learn more about you and who want to join your collective.
Yeah, and you know, certainly it's difficult to find time, but I'd love if anyone does think, if they have a performing background or a music background or a dance, or if they've got a good smart-assery base, you know, your Carl Barron smart-ass, that's always an in. And if you've got the curiosity, I mean, it really, it's the skills and the inherent heart is what, you know, makes this work. Before we finish, can I share a quote with you? And you've probably seen it on the bottom of my email. My quote that just is I live by, and it is: whenever an elder dies, a library burns down. Whenever an elder dies, a library burns down, and that's so, it's so precious when we lose one. And many libraries like that close on their own without family around them. Many do have families around them, but you know, I keep saying we need to keep these libraries open for as long as we can, because there's so much in there. And yeah, that's a beautiful quote, which I love. Wow, it's been great. I've got so many questions for you now because I see so many parallels in the work. You know, about you talk about person-centered care, and there's a lot of terms now which people are moving away because it's been around for a long time and gets bandied about. And some of the things that I'm hearing now, we talk a lot about relationship-based care, which I think is a really good model or idea concept. But the other one I heard recently, which is person-directed care. Yeah, that's a good term. That's a new one for me. So yeah, that, it's important to the way we speak about people and terms we use, I think. People don't have challenging behaviours. That's staff, when they write that's staff-centred reporting. It's not person-centred. It's staff-centred, because who are they challenging to? The staff, you know, like it's not about what's going on. What's the unmet need? What are they expressing, you know? Anyway, we could go on for hours.
We can go on for another 5 minutes if you're still keen. Just keen. So where I am right now is I'm sitting outside my son's school. I've got to pick him up in about 15 minutes. So I don't feel like we're on a strict time frame, except for the fact that I've got to leave in 15 minutes.
And you're going to have to edit this and cut it down.
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't think there's professionalism is good so far as it promotes wisdom and practices that aren't harmful, but there's so much that can be done that's of benefit without having to have a PhD. And there are too many people living shitty lives for the door not to be open for people with a variety of life experiences and qualifications to, you know, work in fields like ours. You know, like there's got to be quality and safety and ethical services, but at the same time there's got to be you shouldn't have to wait, you know, I really believe you shouldn't have to wait weeks and months and months and months for somebody to come in and listen to you.
Yeah.
If you're in care, for example, you know, like,
yeah.
And there are too many people in care receiving not quite enough positive and human contact. So
absolutely. And are you talking broadly about your sector as well as the aged sector?
Yeah, I'm talking broadly, man, because like I think we're both on the same wavelength when it comes to thinking, well, how can I be of service to people that are having a rough time? And it's a surprise that all these skills you've been learning your whole life have such a powerful impact on vulnerable people, Moz, but it's true.
Yeah. You made me write. You're making me take notes now. I'm starting to go, oh, that's a good point. Having a rough time. That's good. I mean, it's bad, but I mean, that what you've just said just really resonates. I mean,
Mate,
there's so much. I mean, I remember when you came to Milk Crate, and I remember how affected you were by what we were doing, or what was happening, I should say, in that centre. And again, it was about equal. It's all about equal terms, on equal terms. I think.
Exactly.
And I know that you come from that perspective. What worries me about the Royal Commission is that I don't know that our government is going to lead change. I don't think that they do lead change, and I'm sorry to get political. I'm the Labor Party and Liberal Party created the mess that's aged care. They created it together. They did certain things, and I know I'm assuming, and I think that things have happened in there's things that have been better in your sector, but it's still it's not enough. It's not good enough. Residential aged care has really faltered. I think we've seen that come out, but I don't think the government will lead us to change. And if we look at the model, Exhibit A, climate change, they're actually working against banks and the sector. The energy sector is pulling out. I think BHP maybe has pulled out of coal industry. Or, people are moving away from these things, and yet we keep getting driven back to these resources that no one wants or is investing in, and so they're not leading into new innovative territory or following the trends. I think the trends come from us and the innovators, and the sector itself will lead it. And I think that's what's going to happen with residential aged care. There's people doing the small house model. People are looking at more at the small house model that is in your sector more and more, particularly with COVID. Like people in America that work in that small house model. A lot of people. So someone gets COVID in a small house. It's confined to a smaller. It's not this warehouse of people. So the small house, and again, Bill Thomas, I use his name again, has got the greenhouse model in America. He's changing. There's a woman here, Natasha Chadwick. I hope I got that name right. She's got a village up in Queensland. And then there's someone that is absolutely ace that you have to talk to. There is Nicole Smith, who's a gerontologist and nurse and a frontline responder under COVID. And Dr. Rodney Gillick. They're partnering in this thing called Canberra House. Canberra being the Indigenous word, Kambra, I think it is, Canberra House. They're setting up a small home, central kitchen, people live there. And so that's going to be the way to go. And I think that there's a lot to learn from, your sector, but at the same time, I know that your sector is crying out for better.
Well, you're right, mate. I think disability was a bit of a trailblazer when it came to acknowledging that large institutions, large residential models didn't give people the best experience of life and humanity in a lot of cases. And it's a lot easier for you talk about normality. There was this big movement to normalize life. A gentleman called Wolfensberger talked about normalization back in the late 70s, early 80s. He's a good guy to check out.
I've got homework from this talk, but anyway, go on.
Yeah. So disability. It seems to me that the rights of people with disability have been possibly more effectively advocated for than the rights of elders so far in our society.
I think so. I mean, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that the disability sector has got it there yet. But if you consider the design of a museum, or if you consider the design of a library or a theatre, you'll have a ramp, you'll have accessibility, you'll have toilets. But for people with dementia, it's not, and only just now people are saying to talk about dementia-friendly cities, dementia-friendly museums. And so it's kind of like there's this advocacy at the moment, and I'm sort of not sure how I sit with it yet, but there's this view now, and there's a guy called Jason Burton in WA, a great dementia advocate and an Eden practitioner, and worked for Alzheimer's WA for many years. He talked about, first I heard him talking about dementia as a disability. If it was classified as a disability, there would be more opportunities to address these things. And when I say dementia, I mean the loss of cognitive ability then, because it's kind of seen as this weird thing, this psychological mad thing that happens. It's not.
I'm with you. I think people with disability, because it's a developmental issue that happens earlier in life with most people.
Unless it's acquired, right? Unless it's an acquired injury.
Yeah. But you're more likely to have, able-bodied advocates, parents, for example, fighting for the good fight on their behalf, and also, people that are in their prime who are able to bring the battle forward, whereas it's way easier to marginalise people with disability. But I was also thinking in terms of, what we consider to be welfare. We came out of World War II with this idea that government would have a caretaking role over this population that had sacrificed so much for the war effort, for example, that it was a two-way contract, and part of that was the welfare state. And, it's not that hard to see how things have sort of morphed into a corporate welfare state where, we now pay our taxes so that governments can support business to provide the services rather than government doing that in their own way. And we'll pay businesses not to shut down their factories and to act as the agent of welfare now. So corporate welfare is the
fuel excise, mining. There's a big list. I agree.
Yeah. So whereas people with disability were seen as the worthy recipients of welfare, certainly more so than people with mental health or psychosocial disabilities that outwardly look capable and should be productive. People that were, had acceptable disabilities were always a great. There hasn't been a march of able-bodied people saying, "Hey, people with disability should get less welfare," for example. You know what I mean? Like you don't see on the front page of the newspaper, welfare cheats in wheelchairs. You just don't see that. Yeah. So disability is this pioneer when it comes to human rights in a way, because it's the last bastion of compassion in our society.
Wow.
So I think aged care should definitely learn from disability, the group home model as opposed to the large residential model. And I love the idea of person-directed care. That's got to be the way, mate.
Yeah, and like because I work for a for-profit organisation. I work for a not-for-profit organisation, and I work for one independent community, small, like it's a 17 but it's still a residential aged care service in its traditional form. And I wouldn't badmouth those services. I mean, I've left services where I felt I can't support working here. So I'm at these services that I care about and I think are doing, the best they can. But it's systematic, and also we got to look at our workers, and I'm sure it's the same in your sector, is they are I'm quoting Bill Thomas again, they're the guardians.
Exactly.
They're the guardians of people that aren't able to care for themselves. And in aged care, they are the people that cared for us and walked this earth before us. And it's such a noble path, and it's a precious gift. It's a noble path to be a carer, no matter what you're in, whether you're a home carer with your husband or your uncle or your auntie or your wife, whatever that is, or what you do or what care staff do that I work alongside. It is an incredible thing to care for someone, to have put your hands on their body, to clean them, to maybe be hit, maybe be threatened, maybe joked with, maybe have a great relationship, maybe struggle and be awkward, to do that and to receive the amount of money they would get more money if they worked at Bunnings. That's wrong. It's something wrong in that. And I would be happy, here we go, I'll put it on record, I'd be happy to pay more tax to fund those things. I oppose my tax going to new coal-fired powered stations, unless they give me a job. I oppose that. I oppose, mining people, not paying tax. I oppose all those things with my money. I don't really like governments employing people to teach them how to spin stuff so they don't answer questions. Can we just get rid of all of that and spend our money on stuff that matters?
Yeah, I reckon so, mate.
I'm on the soapbox again, but that's so important, and I'd be happy to do that. So it's kind of, there is this clown and there is this happy thing and there's this positive person that I am, but there's great heaviness about the way that the disability sector, that the aged care sector, that the homeless community and that sector is going, and these people, they deserve better. Like, the homeless community, you see people all the time going, oh, he should get a job, get himself together. They have no idea what happens in that. I know, because I was in there for 12 years. They have no idea where those people come from. And usually it's lack of play. It's lack of learning when they're young. It's abusive relationships. It's drug abuse. And for women, it's often sexual abuse, from people that they trusted. And so, there's all this pain in those sectors, and we just keep looking at, let's have another Royal Commission. So I'm a bit pessimistic about the government doing anything. What they might do is set up something like the National Disability Insurance Scheme in aged care. I'd love them to do that. That's a great idea.
And what that's doing is it's allowing smaller operators to compete on the same stage as the bigger providers of services. And as a smaller service, you can be a lot more, you can be better to your workers, in which case they're better to the people that are being looked after. You just got to be good to workers. That's number one. Workers' rights. If you don't do that well, you're stuffed.
There's a mob that it's called the fish model. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, and it's been around. It's quite old now, but I remember that there was a saying was it Steve Lundeen? I think he used to say, or someone used to say, your staff are your first customers.
That's it.
And it's so true. And and if we've let the market forces decide how things run, okay, and like the market isn't there for the consumer. We know that now. It's been shown. So if you leave it to the market forces, they're not going to I don't think they take care of stuff. So we do need some
people like you and me, mate, stepping up and building infrastructure. You're building this collective. You've got your troop of creative therapists out there. And it's got to grow, mate. It's got to grow.
Yeah, it does. It does. Wow, that's a lot of ground,
mate. I love what you're doing. I'm so excited to be talking to you, and so excited to hear about other wonderful people that are in your sphere that I've never heard about, that I can possibly maybe talk to one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, the thing that we all have in common, Dave, we all love to talk.
Beautiful, my brother. Well, let's keep doing it, mate. Let's keep doing it and keep talking. Yeah.
And thank you, and thanks to everyone that's listening to the very first episode. And follow David Ackling-Jones, Smith Rochester. You got a long name now. We've both got double barrel names, because I think what you do is great, and I know that you have a lot of people with you and a team. And good luck. Good luck to you all out there. Take care, huh?
Yeah, wonderful, Moz. All right. Well, I'll say a similar thing to round this off. Thanks for being here for our first podcast, and stay awesome, and we'll see you on the journey.
Thanks, Dave. Happy travels. Bye, mate.
See you, mate.